Good morning, everyone. Today, House and Senate Republicans are here to ask some questions and to offer some solutions. You know, over the course of the last week, we've seen Governor Lamont take a sort of rapid, haphazard approach in an attempt to keep the Connecticut Sun in the state of Connecticut. We are concerned that there is a lack of transparency, a lack of detail of proposals. Typically, when the state of Connecticut has looked at retaining companies for the purposes of job growth or economics, we've had a lot more detail, whether it was Jackson Labs, whether it was Sikorsky or Pratt & Whitney. There's been conversation. Today, we've had no conversation. We've only read about these proposals through press conferences, through brief media gaggles, and now through reporting. We are starting to see what the framework is for the state of Connecticut. And what we do know is that the state is looking to leverage a treasured asset in the state of Connecticut, that being Connecticut's pension fund. We think it is an unprecedented move. We think it deserves answers to our questions. And so we are calling on the governor to be transparent with what this proposal looks like, what has actually been submitted to the WNBA. And with that, I will turn it over for more remarks to Senator Harding.
Thanks, Vin. Good morning, everybody. Echoing in Vin's comments here, there's been a significant lack of transparency surrounding this alleged deal, which would involve these pension funds. Ultimately, you would think common sense would dictate that investing funds should simply be based upon what's a good investment. We haven't received any numbers or indications of what type of investment this would be. And unfortunately, it's a long line of how this administration conducts itself on money that isn't theirs. Whether it's taxpayer money, where the governor calls it small ball when you have a chancellor taking $30,000 plus on a purchase card to lavish meals, et cetera, or when it comes down to just flippantly making comments that pension funds, where hard-earned state employees are putting their money in, their retirement is being invested in, to be invested in a WNBA team with little to no details of what that investment is going to look like. There needs to be structure and fiscal responsibility and a level of respect for taxpayer money and for public employees' money. And it seems like the way that this administration handles both is alarming, to say the very least. And this is a glaring example, once again, just flippantly making comments that you're going to use potentially millions of dollars of hard-earned money to invest in something that we have little to no provisions surrounding. So we're here today to call on both the treasurer and this administration to bring some common sense and transparency to our hard-earned money, whether it be through the state employees' pension, or whether it be through the taxpayers. And that's what we're here for today. I'm going to introduce the ranking member from the House on the Finance Committee, Joe Paletta, Representative Paletta.
Thank you, Mr. Minority Leader, and good morning, everyone. You know, when a constituent calls one of us up here, what happened here? When a constituent calls one of us up here, the first thing they're going to ask is whether or not we're working to work towards affordability in Connecticut. That includes electric bills, that includes the cost of living, that includes property taxes here in Connecticut. Unfortunately, the thing that we hear the least is whether or not we're going to work to save the Connecticut Sun. I think that there is a ton of good, worthy proposals around that discussion, but today we are here to tell you that we should be better stewards of pension funds. More importantly, and as was mentioned before, ask yourself, we should be laser focused on the cost of living in Connecticut. Should we be looking at helping folks around Connecticut combat the high cost of electricity or saving the sun? Should we be looking at helping folks that are paying some of the highest property taxes in the nation or saving the Connecticut Sun? Those are the things that from the Finance Committee, I think we should be really focused on. And unfortunately, these proposals, while they've been kind of done in the dark, don't get us there. So with that, in my brief remarks, I would like to introduce my co-ranking member on the Finance, Revenue, and Bonding Committee, Senator Ryan Fazio, who had a proposal during the regular legislative session to address this. And unfortunately, it fell along party lines and failed in committee. And I just want to highlight that. We voted on a proposal that would have addressed this with the state treasurer. And for some reason, the majority party decided not to take it up, and we find ourselves here today in this exact same predicament. So I'll let him tell you a little bit more. My partner on the Finance Committee, the ranking member, Senator Ryan Fazio.
Thank you, Representative. One of the most important issues for taxpayers, state employees, and retirees that gets talked about the least in Connecticut is the returns on $60 billion of pension assets and monies in Connecticut. Over the last 10 or 20 years, Connecticut has had one of the worst records of returns in the entire country, and that has cost taxpayers billions of dollars in higher taxes over that period of time. We have to be very, very careful about how we oversee and invest the tens of billions of dollars in hard-earned retirements and taxpayer dollars for state employees and Connecticut citizens. And that requires that we make necessary reforms in order to broaden responsibility and ensure adequate transparency and accountability in our pension management system. That would make this entire discussion about the Connecticut Sun deal today a lot more, one with a lot more confidence for us as people who are looking to protect the taxpayer and protect Connecticut citizens and state employees. In the past several legislative sessions, I and other Republicans have introduced a bill to transform how pension oversight is done in Connecticut, to institute a board of directors who would oversee and have fiduciary responsibility broadly as professionals with financial experience for the state employee pension investments. Connecticut is now the only state in the entire country where the elected state treasurer is the sole fiduciary, meaning the sole person with legal responsibility for oversight of investing tens of billions of dollars of state employee retirements that are backed by taxpayers. In the last year, North Carolina, just a year ago, North Carolina was one of two states with Connecticut who had sole fiduciary powers for their state treasurer. Their state treasurer, their new state treasurer, ran for his first term in office on the promise that he would reform that system and broaden responsibility, give away some of his own powers for the benefit of taxpayers and state employees, and he was ultimately able to pass that reform in his first year in office. We are not calling for anything different than what any other state in the country and its taxpayers and its state's employees have. Connecticut is one of just 50 states that now has a sole fiduciary in its elected state treasurer responsible himself or herself for the management of tens of billions of dollars of funds without legal oversight that is adequate for the protection of those people, for our state, its taxpayers, and its state employees. And regardless of what happens with the Sun investment, if we had this system with broad responsibility, with a board of directors who were professionals and who had legal responsibility and input for these decisions, then we could feel more secure in what decision ultimately is made. Our simple ask is that it be made with the taxpayer and with the state employees' retirement monies in mind, rather than policy questions or political questions. On the face of it, this looks like a political and policy issue that was raised by elected officials, including the lieutenant governor and governor, and ultimately has transformed into an issue of, should we be using state employee retirement funds on it? The state employee retirement funds, for the benefit of both state employees and taxpayers, should be invested on the basis of protecting their retirements and protecting the taxpayers, not political questions, not policy questions. And so our reform, which we've been proposing for the past 3 years, which Democrats in the Finance Committee, without really any adequate explanation, voted down on party lines, even though many Democrats privately will tell you that this makes a lot of sense. Our proposal would protect taxpayers, would protect state employees, would broaden out responsibility and power for the management of tens of billions of dollars rather than investing it in a single individual. In the long run, it would be to the benefit of the current and future state treasurers as well. I wouldn't want to be the sole person legally responsible for tens of billions of dollars. No person should, and no private or public organization operates in this way. This is good government. This would protect taxpayers. This would protect state employees. And in any case that there was a Connecticut Sun deal, it would give the public confidence that it was done for the right reasons. Thank you.